Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 7, our second to last episode in this set of Custom World Live. I'm really happy to have with me today Naveen from TNT Motorcycles. How's it going, Naveen?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Adrian. Hello, everyone.
And Naveen, this past year, we presented this masterpiece here, the Neelkantha, at Rider Mania. And hopefully we'll be able to get some insights from you on how it came to be. First, though, I want to sort of introduce everybody to TNT and have you tell us a little bit about where you came from, how you guys came up, how many people are in the crew, and yeah, what makes TNT Motorcycles?
Hi, Adrian. Hello, everyone. Big thanks for this live. TNT Motorcycles came into existence probably 7 years back now, and I was working with an OEM at the time. I had an idea in my head. I was always a Royal Enfield boss throughout my life. You have to understand that being a small kid in India, a Royal Enfield is the pedigree of a motorcycle for a 90s kid. The most macho man in the society used to have one, and it was a status symbol, as you can say. And as a 90s kid, I was really fascinated, the culture of the Royal Enfield, and it was not a commuter motorcycle; it was a lifestyle product, and it had gravity in it. So I was always, always a fan of Royal Enfield. My first motorcycle was a Royal Enfield when I was pursuing my mechanical engineering. I toured it a little bit here and there, then started a job with an OEM. Then we had this crazy idea of building a gooseneck chopper based on a Royal Enfield 350. We bought a brand new Electra, and me and my partner, we decided to use his basement as our garage, and bought some equipment. We got a milling machine and a few grinders, and just started chopping it off. We thought to ourselves that we'll give it a try, and let's see what comes out. And if we are able to reach where we want to reach, then probably we'll start up a company. So this is how the journey went, and Shunya was our first motorcycle, which I'm talking about right here. The orange fuel tank one, which you can see right there. It's a gooseneck frame. We completely built it, ground up, and with a WL front suspensions and hardtail frame. We completed this build in somewhere around 5 to 6 months. Showcased it in a few bike events in Goa, and we got a great response out of the crowd, and people really loved our work. This really boosted the confidence, and we decided to quit our 9-to-5 jobs and start TNT Motorcycles.
So you guys started building while you were still working your day jobs as well, and then only decided later to commit to TNT?
Yes. This is how it went actually. We were working on the weekends when we were not going to our offices, respective offices, and we were working on the weekends. We did not tell anybody about this project, and we kept developing on it, and somehow we were able to complete it just in time for a motorcycle event. And Well, as I said, the response was tremendous, and that's how it went then.
Fantastic. And that sort of so your background in mechanical engineering and so on, you feel that really helped you guys out to feel more confident about starting TNT or getting into custom building, or was it a completely different animal from what you'd been used to in your day jobs?
Uh, if I compare it with my job, it's entirely different thing which I'm doing. I was working in interior design, so and there's not much of use here. But yeah, mechanical engineering, being a mechanical engineer, it really gives you the confidence. You work hands on with metal in your engineering days, and we did a few projects like Baha, competitions, and epicycle. Built a few stuff in college time as well. So we had the confidence that we could fabricate something. The point was to come out with a bang and make something which is really unique, which nobody has ever seen before. Royal Enfield was the obvious choice because there's nothing like a Royal Enfield engine, and then we decided to make world's lowest chopper actually based on a Royal Enfield. So this thing you see right here is 31 inches from ground up, the highest point, and it's really low slung. So people really loved our work when we came out with it, and it really gave us the confidence, that people appreciate the work and the hard, the craftsmanship and the ideas you put behind a custom build. So yeah, why not? Why not?
Well, that confidence and your attention to detail with the mechanical aspects is what I think brought you to our attention a couple years back as well. The Neelkantha, for everybody's information, is not our first build with TNT Motorcycle. We did, I guess, in 2017. Does that sound about right? In 2017, did this build. A very different interpretation on the Himalayan, where I think all of that engineering know-how that you guys have came into play, but in a different way, not just lowering, but really changing the bike quite a bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about what went into making what you see here, a trike, a three-wheeler, out of the Himalayan?
It's called the Rooster GT, and for obvious reasons. This was our first strike, and none of us at the workshop in the team had ridden a trike ever before, and we had no idea about the dynamics of a trike, how it plays, how the handlebar feels, and but when Royal Enfield asks you to do something, then you just say challenge accepted, and then you work it out. So a lot of engineering went into this one. We wanted to make a trike, which blasts through the sand at the Goa beaches, and does not get stuck anywhere at the beaches because there's loose sand everywhere. So the idea was to make make a trike that performs as well as looks. So we went with a ATV differential. We bought it from a 4x4 ATV, and we planted it right back into the customized swing arm. It's a stock swing arm, but customized to incorporate the rear differential. The best thing about the differential was it came included with a reverse gear. So if ever you get stuck by chance, you could just reverse your way out of it. And with those knobby tires, it's difficult to get stuck actually in the first place. It gives you a lot of traction. I had a lot of fun playing with it in the sand. And on this top image where you see the swing arm being done, you might notice there's a structural component which comes into place to hold the differential in place. That's a structural component to tackle the twisting load which comes out from both the tires. Because now you have power splitted in two tires, and there's a differential acting on it, so there's the twisting load all around it. So just to capture that and strengthen the swing arm, that comes into play. But it's a really sweet build, and after practicing a few laps at that beach, I could do drifts, around the GoPro. So yeah, handles like a goddess. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, if anybody wants to see the Rooster up close in person, it has its home at the Goa Garage Cafe in Goa, where you can also have a lovely dinner or lunch or whatever, and a killer cup of coffee served to you with the Royal Enfield's pride there. But moving on back to the Neelkantha, this is I think you giving the reveal at Rider Mania this past year. I should say a little something that when we sort of began to conceptualize this idea for a bagger, we really wanted to make sure that it was shown at Rider Mania. This is where all the enthusiasts, all the Royal Enfield passionates come. We get thousands and thousands of people every year, and more year on year, to this weekend of music and motorcycling and just camaraderie. It's an absolute blast, and so where better to present possibly the world's longest Interceptor than at the Rider Mania event. Can you tell us a little bit about what that felt like? I mean, you've been to Rider Mania before, obviously with the Rooster and with your other builds. What was it like to be the star of the show for a bit there at the event?
Yep, we've been coming to Ride Mania for past 5 years now, and every year we bring new builds there, showcase it to a lot of people. And I would say there's nothing like Ride Mania in India. There's no event like Ride Mania, especially an OEM getting involved. And it's not a biking event actually. It's a party from Royal Enfield to all the riders who just want to join in and have fun. So it's a beautiful atmosphere. Everybody is chilled out, and there's no ego clashes, and there are no grudge matches there. Even though there are so many different clubs, riding clubs participating, there's all love, all around. And yeah, I've been coming to Rider Mania for a long time, but this year was really special because we got to do an Interceptor for Royal Enfield. That too, again, a bagger, world's first actually. And I think whenever Royal Enfield approaches us for a build, it opens it opens a new challenge and just for our team, because most of the times we are doing something which has never been done before in TNT, and which we have actually no expertise about. But somehow it's an engineering problem which we'd like to solve, and present it in a perspective which is both elegant and it looks beautiful and performs as well, both form and function combined together. So yeah, it was an amazing feeling. I remember when the bike was unveiled and when when the crowd just mobbed, both me and the build. But yeah, it was a beautiful moment for me, and builders like us. It's more of a passion than a business, and I guess it's true for most of the builders. It's more about the passion they want to follow rather than making money out of this business. And for a guy who's following his passion, I don't think there's nothing more than people praising what he has created, creating his artwork, his sculpture. And yeah, the best feeling in the world actually. All paid off for the job. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was a fantastic reaction there. I was a little worried that you'd get mobbed
Yeah.
during the presentation. But so to walk us through a little bit, I mean, this is where you started, and people may remember the same image from last week with Thrive Motorcycle. They also started with an Interceptor, but the Neelkantha is a very different sort of build from the TXX that those guys did. For me, it's just fantastic to see the full range of the possibilities here on the one platform. Got a sketch here, I think, of what the bike then became. Can you tell us a little bit about your process going into the build? How did you think about it? You getting this request for a bagger? what were the first things that came to mind? Was it problems? Was it, how you would work it out? What was going through your head besides, oh damn?
Yeah, that was probably my first reaction when you told me that what about a bagger? And uh, I took it in a very positive way because again it's a very new pedigree for TNT motorcycles and for I would say Asia Pacific because there are not much baggers here. People don't know about baggers here. Uh, Not so much touring going on baggers this side of the world. So yeah, I knew that whatever will be coming out with will definitely surprise people. But we need them, loving it as well as surprised. So, the point was making something which does not only look good but performs, jumps up and down with the air ride suspensions, and it comes out, really a looker. So we did some initial sketches, and we sent them to you, to your team. Discussed a lot about the design aspects as well. A lot of clashes there as well regarding the design lines as well. And I believe when there is discussion, then after the friction among people, the best possible outcome comes out. So yeah, that is also necessary. And what actually came out after all those discussions and sketches was this beautiful sketch of what we finally decided to build actually. And initially the processes initially only 2D renders are done just to understand the lines and the flow of the motorcycle. And for this, we take an actual dimension image of the engine and then develop a complete motorcycle around it. And after finalizing on this stage, then we go further to structural components and 3D designing and rendering in SolidWorks.
Just for the knowledge of maybe some people aren't familiar with the style, could you explain just a little bit about what elements make a motorcycle a bagger? What define the bagger? And so what were those parts that you had to really think about going into the design process?
Baggers are basically motorcycles with big engines, so they're supposed to be, guzzling miles, while on tarmac, obviously. You don't go off-road on them, but you do cross-country cruises on them, and they have bags or panniers attached to either side of them, to carry, enough luggage for your journey, and especially touring motorcycles, but tarmac touring, not off-road. So that's the basic idea of a bagger. The style too has been, changing drastically for over the past decade of, in baggers, and the front wheel keeps going big, with a huge fairing, so that you don't have any wind blast whatsoever while cruising down those miles on the highway, and you know, uh, an elegant design which carries all your luggage as well, but looks beautiful as well.
That's a great way of putting it. And so to get all that to work, obviously you're changing the base motorcycle quite a bit um, to become this thing. And how then did you begin to apply your knowledge of engineering to make that possible?
Uh, yeah, after making the design renders and getting one, finalized with the Royal Enfield, the only problem which left was to fabricate it. So, so we were supposed to approach it very methodically, and we stripped down the complete motorcycle just to bare bones, and then we mashed, overlapped it with the render we did, and obviously while doing the render, we keep certain things in mind, like the wheelbase, the front tire size, whatever we are showing in comparison to the engine and the dimensions like that. So we overlap the design, and then we say what structural changes we need to do. And as per that wheelbase, our structure is designed in complete 3D. It's rendered in SolidWorks, and you know, uh, uh, yeah, this go to the structural design if you can, Adrian.
Sure.
Motorcycle 3D.
Okay. Does that look about right?
Yeah. So the chassis design which you see there, all the pipes that are being done, that structural design is completely done in in a 3D software, accommodating the wheelbase, the front girder, obviously the rear swing arm, the installments and fittings for the rear panniers, and fitments for the front fairing. So when we get down to structural components, which carry, which are carrying some load or transferring some load, so then this one. Then we do some structural testing on them. This is obviously the T plate for the girder, the lower one. So we see at what point actually the stress is happening, and we do a structural stress test for that. Because with OEMs in development stages, they develop a product and then they do probably a million miles of testing on 10 different prototypes. And but with a custom builder, that is not feasible, nor it is possible. So you have to engineer your product properly so that in real-time conditions it performs. So per se, while doing the structural test, what we do is we increase the factor of safety by 1. So if the industry standard is 3 for static and 5 for dynamic, we'll probably use 4 for static and 6 for dynamic. So we'll increase the testing load and test the components on a higher load so that they do not fail in actual conditions. So that's how we approach it.
So that when you're actually riding this, you can feel the product of all of that engineering work going into it, where you have some confidence in riding this on a motorway, even though the bike has changed quite a bit from stock. You've put it through the digital paces, let's say, to hopefully get closer to a properly functioning motorcycle as such. As part of that function going to this, I think we've seen the animation in the previous screen there, but the way the suspension functions here, appears to be a fairly standard girder front fork, but I think you mentioned before that this is in fact able to raise and lower the motorcycle. So what went into that? What was the thought process behind that?
Lately, the trend in baggers has shifted towards air ride suspension totally, and it's both cool and functional. So it's supported engine-wise as well. What you see here is a rendering, and what you see here actually is the practical video of the motorcycle going up and down with the help of air ride suspension. So they're basically air bellows which have compressors, and those compressors fill air in those air bellows and make them inflate and deflate. And using that movement and using certain linkages, you can define the movement of certain parts like the front girders and rear suspension. So that's what's being done here. If you see the front girder, it's completely designed in SolidWorks and then CNC machined out of 6081 aluminum because it's the best one available for machining and for structural components. Very high structural strength because of magnesium and silicon. What you see here in the render is the working operation. We use JD&T while doing those renders as well. Just because while we are building those parts, they should mate as well, and have specific tolerances after mating. So that's also kept in consideration. And in this particular GIF, you can see how the girder swaps up and down with the help of linkages. So the travel in the suspensions was 3 inches, but using these linkages, we could increase it up to 5.5 inches. So on while stationary, the motorcycle sits just about 2 inches above the ground, and when fully inflated, it goes to 7.5 inches ground clearance. So that's ample for a bagger, I suppose.
So for making these parts, do you work with other suppliers, with CNC companies, or how do you go about once you've got this CAD model in place? Do you make some of it in-house? Do you go to suppliers for other bits? How do you put it all together?
Right now, only CNC job is outsourced, I would say, and it's pretty expensive equipment. We'll get one as soon as we can afford one, but for now it is outsourced. And we designed almost 18 components for CNC machining for this particular motorcycle. Front girder being one of them, then come the front footboards, the rear foot pegs, the TNT logos, the tail light nickel, the rear exhaust tips, the handlebar risers, the fuel tank cap. A lot of parts have been CNC machined. And the structure, if I talk about in particular chassis, if you talk about, then once we design it in SolidWorks, do structural testing with increased safety factors, we use the dimensions on our jig and cross-check those dimensions more than once. Once we are satisfied with the dimensions of the jig, then we start building a chassis, in a jig. It's welded there. It's stress relieved on the jig itself, and only after stress relieving and cooling down process, it is taken off the jig. So there are no possibilities of having some kind of bend after cooling off.
So when you went into this, you obviously got a stock Interceptor to start with. What went into making it into a bagger? We've got a couple of questions here from some viewers. So asking how much of the stock chassis did you guys keep versus how much did you have to throw away in order to modify to fit the bagger proportions? And sort of what materials do you use for this? I think we've seen obviously the CNC aluminum used in the girder front end there, but what else what other materials went into making this? And again, how much of the stock frame did you keep?
Stock, we what you see in this photograph, we only kept the lower part of the front subframe, and the neck was taken front and high, probably about 6 and 4 inches high, 6 inches front, and then we chopped off the subframe and just welded it a bit lower than its original position because we wanted the fuel tank to flow like it does in a bagger. So we wanted to be a bit lower from the rear end of the fuel tank. So that's why you can see in this image that chassis is chopped off and welded just a bit lower than the stock position. We had to increase the size of the stock fuel tank, but it's replicated as Interceptor, increased in the same dimensions everywhere. So it's 3 inches longer to suit the dimensions of a bagger, because in baggers you see generally they have really long fuel tanks, and that's to accommodate all the ratios everywhere. The neck was taken front because we needed enough ample room for a 23-inch wheel in the front. So we wanted ample space for it to play up and down. So that's why the neck was taken a bit up and forward.
Very cool. And so you said you elongated the tank. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, we did not elongate the stock one. We actually built a new tank ground up. We hand fabricated a new one because that was easier actually. Elongating and making a stock tank bigger was because we wanted to keep all the ratios intact so that it resembles as an Interceptor tank itself. So for doing that is really difficult with the curves. So you have to make a new one. But yeah, very special features we did on this fuel tank was the bead rolling. While discussing it with you guys in the fabrication phase, we tried bead rolling. We made an equipment for bead rolling, and we tried on engineering. It came out a bit rough. Then we practiced some more, and obviously after practicing, it came out. It started coming out a bit, linear and fresh. Yeah, that has been incorporated in the fuel tank and in the bags, the panniers, just to break that monotonous blue across the bike.
Yeah, I
And
really
match
like how
aluminum parts.
you've gone and respected the basic forms of the Interceptor tank, while at the same time completely remaking it to suit the bike. It really helps that, as you said, that feeling of a super long, super low bagger. On the back, then, with the other part of the bagger being the bags, rather important. What went into making those? What went into creating the forms, getting them fabricated? I'm just looking at the image here. It looks like it's all steel that they're made out of. What informed those choices, and how did you go about making them?
We wanted to go fiber obviously because it's much lighter on such a big proportion, such a big size bag, and but we had 90 odd days to finish the build. So and being a mechanical engineer and working on metal for so long, I would say I perform metal. I prefer metal over fiber or plastic or FRP. Metal has a really nice tendency, it's malleable, and it's got a really nice tendency to flow into shape. If you're a good fabricator, probably you can make out any shape out of metal, and it 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 has life. Actually, it looks real. When you touch it, it feels real. It feels right. It's got some soul into it. So with fiber, a bit so difficult to have those feelings. I prefer metal in place of fiber. So any which way, these bags are done from MS sheets, handcrafted, all of them, and the outer layer is again bead rolled aluminum. Uh, Once I do a walk around video, probably I can open one and show it to them.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another picture of your front suspension being fitted there. Once you everything started coming together, do you traditionally end up adjusting things a lot, or do you find that because you're modeling things in CAD beforehand, do you find everything just pretty much fits together according to plan? What amount of playing around is there after you get it out of the digital into the real and actually start making it?
Structurally, we don't face any problems because it's all been engineered really well. Everything is, first designed in CAD, then double checked while being fabricated. If it's a CNC part, then there's no way it will go wrong because it's a copy of the file you make in SolidWorks. Yeah, you do face some problems while fitting a motorcycle together because you have really delicate paint on it and you don't want to scratch it. And then while making some adjustments, you might scratch it. So yeah, that time you have to be really careful. And with the painted parts, it's really a mess. You can't hurry up the process. That's what I'd say. You can't just cannot hurry up. Uh, Assembling a motorcycle, a finished product. It's really difficult. It has to be done very precisely, very patiently, and over time.
Yeah, and so for the painting, do you have a one go-to guy for that, or do you guys do that in house, or how does that work out?
We got a paint shop in house, a really neat paint booth, and a really good and experienced painter with us, fortunately. And for the paint job at in this particular build really came out nice, I would say. And the contrast which happened between aluminum and blue is I really love it.
And you should be. It really came out beautifully. There's a lot of presence there, and just seeing it in Goa, with the sunlight there and everything, really makes the colors pop.
Yes.
Well, I realize we're not in Goa with the sunset or anything on the beach, so it's not quite the same. But do you think you give people a little walk around of the bike? Maybe let's start with seeing that suspension work, and then we can look at some of the details.
Yeah, sure. Sure, we can do that. Give me a sec. So, I'm not sure you're able to see, but on my left hand is switch for the rear suspension. Now, probably you'll notice the motorcycle going up a bit from the rear section.
Yep, yep. He's working. I should point out right now also that this was not part of the definition of our brief to TNT. This is something that the boys were just crazy enough to do on their own. We just said make a bagger. Everything else, all of this, these really cool details and functions are completely coming out of their imagination and sense of self punishment, I guess.
This is the front one. Thanks, Adrian. So now this is,
So this is the
you know,
this helped you get past all those exciting speed humps on the road
yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's this small lever here which operates the center stand. You can pop it off when you want to go away. When you ride the motorcycle, you pop it back when you want to, just park it. So now I'm going to park it. Yeah, I'll give you a quick walk around of the motorcycle.
So you were talking about the bead rolling earlier. This is what you're talking about?
Yes, this is what we did with the aluminum sheets. We bead rolled them into these patterns, these checkered patterns, and they came out nice, I believe. This is on the fuel tank. This is a little bit tricky to rivet, but we somehow managed without, leaking the tank.
Hmm. It's a neat effect. It's sort of a quilted or pillow effect that you normally would see in the seat, and here you've moved it into other parts of the bike. So it's got that nice traditional reference, but at the same time you're redoing it in a completely different material, which is really cool.
That's the radial grill. There's a mesh behind it, so we have ample air going inside. The rear brake is a disc brake, but it operates with a wire from the pedal and goes all the way in the back. It's the front girder. And our master's 23-inch wheel.
How hard was it to find wheels of the right size for you?
LED setup, really bright. These are rolled on lathe.
I'm seeing some speakers there, Naveen. This also has what you can play from your phone on this or from a.
Yeah, those are Bluetooth enabled and weatherproof. There are a couple of them. They get paired with a single device and then they play together in sync. So, they give you ample sound. A must for baggers, I believe, nowadays.
Yeah.
We did this saddle out of camel leather. We want it to be really, really matte in color so that it breaks all the flash of the, blue
Mm.
coming around it. just to break the glue somewhere in the middle. So we have some balance on the motorcycle, both the sides. And if you see closely, it's really, really sensitive.
Huh.
But it goes away after a few days.
Interesting. I really like the details all throughout, obviously with the Royal Enfield logo and everything in there. I think you have it also on the filler cap and the tail lamp as well.
Yes, we did. We made a custom, beautiful tail lamp just for you guys, Royal Enfield.
Very sweet of you. And this is also a CNC mill.
Yeah, that's for us. So these are the TNT logos that go on the motorcycle.
Very nice.
These are the rear foot pegs. The ones whose design you were showing, they just fold into place and just flash into the surface. So from the top you won't be able to flash it.
Very
And
cool.
baggers have a tendency to fishtail sometimes on the highways because of this huge bag in the rear, and they cause some aerodynamic problems. You see the shape of the bag, how it really curves, And while shooting for this motorcycle, taking some shots, we did somewhere around 120, 130 kmph on the highways, and it was pretty grounded and stable.
That's very good, dear. In the past I've had the opportunity to design some production baggers, and that is always a problem we run into. Between the size of the fairing at the front and obviously the wind resistance at the back with the bags, it really can mess up the dynamics of the chassis. So it's interesting to hear that you guys actually thought about that when going into the build.
Yeah, I unfortunately saw a video, and I did not feel good about it. So we wanted to be, the bags were, they were always supposed to be round to match the Interceptor line, curvy. But this decision for making this curve was, made only to stop those fishtailing accidents.
Yeah. Well, it has the side effect of also making the design really beautifully flow from front to back there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you for the walk around there, Naveen. Really appreciate that. Very glad we could get the bike with you as well today.
Yes. Thank you.
So this is an image of you doing that riding you were talking about earlier, and just so our audience knows, we're really happy today. Also, really excited, in fact, to share with everybody the premiere of that video, which takes you a little bit deeper into the process behind building Neelkantha, and also has some shots of her actually performing on the motorway. So Naveen, I think why don't we sign off here and get to that video, which I know you're anxious to see as well. Thank you again for joining us today, really, for taking the time and for taking the trouble to bring the build over to you. I know it's not easy these days. And yeah, we'll see you on the video and see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. Thanks a lot, Adrian. Thanks a lot, Royal Enfield team.
When you drive a car, you're in a very closed and controlled environment. On the other hand, while riding a motorcycle, you are totally exposed to the climate around you. You feel the wind gushing through your helmet as you speed up. You get to breathe in all the smells and fragrances around you as you whiz past them. You sense the engine vibrations through your hands. And all of this makes motorcycle riding a very pure and organic experience. Custom motorcycles are an extension of one's personality. Each individual has a style or way about them. जिसको जो पसंद है वो वैसा फैशन फॉलो करता है. And through customization, one tries to express his imagination and creativity. Custom motorcycle scene in India exploded about a decade ago, when people started customizing and riding custom motorcycles in great numbers. Royal Enfield as a brand has always celebrated and recognized the custom culture, and that is not something many brands do. Local builders are invited to Ridermania every year to showcase their one-off custom motorcycles. Since 2015, Royal Enfield also started collaborating with builders to create one-off custom pieces. We are proud to say that Neelkantha is also a product of such collaboration between Royal Enfield and TNT Motorcycles. Baggers were first introduced in the 1980s and were intended to be machines capable of gobbling serious touring miles with bags or panniers attached on either side of them. The concept of custom baggers emerged recently in the Western countries when builders realized the potential of customization in a bagger build. Building a ground-up custom motorcycle is a huge undertaking, and it involves great skill and knowledge. In case of Neelkantha, we only had 90 odd days to finish the build. We approached it very methodically. The build was first engineered in the software prior to the fabrication. A complete 3D render was prepared and stress tested part by part in the software itself. Only after engineering the build in the software, we went to the fabrication part, where it followed the same specifications and dimensions as specified in the software. It's pretty much the same process followed by any OEM or major automobile manufacturer. Neelkantha is world's first custom bagger based on a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. Equipped with air-ride suspensions, both front and rear, with the push-up buttons, which is mounted on the AF handlebars, you could vary the ground clearance of the build from 2.5 inches to 7.5 inches. The front end features a handcrafted diverging fairing, sporting a LED headlamp, which is mounted on a CNC machine girder fork setup. The front down tube features a radiator grille equipped with aluminium and SS mesh, which tunnels in ample air for the oil cooler. A total of 18 parts have been CNC machined for this particular build out of aircraft grade aluminium, per se the front foot bolts, the rear foot pegs, the handle risers, the fuel tank cap, the rear tail light setup, the exhaust tips, the rear fender bow, and of course the TNT logos. Even the rear tail light has been customized. It features a RE insignia with a 12 LED setup. The build has been wrapped in electric blue color, and to break the monotony of the color, what we have done is we have inserted buffed and bead rolled aluminium panels in both the bags and the fuel tank. We at TNT Motorcycles strongly believe in karma. You reap what you sow. Gods, they see to it and they intercept. We proudly present to you Neelkantha, the ultimate interceptor.